discuss Ukraine at all with President Xi, and is there any movement on that?
I did. We discussed, well, it's one that we'd like to see settlement. Until last night, it was looking good, but they took a big hit last night. Yeah. So it's going to happen, but it's a shame. 25,000 people died last month.
The Western Group of Forces is conducting active offensive operations across its sector of responsibility, which spans approximately 350 kilometers. Units of the 6th Army are advancing westwards from Kupiansk, generally towards Shevchenkovo. Kharkiv has been liberated, and fighting continues in Velikaya Shapkovka. Troops of the group are operating successfully in the Boguslav and Rubtsov directions. A formation of the 1st Tank Army has liberated the settlement of Borovaya. Street fighting continues in Shaykovka, where more than half of the settlement's territory is controlled by our assault units. The U.S. leader has been reduced to publicly pleading for support and concessions that once would have been unthinkable, signaling a striking reversal in Washington's position and leverage on the world stage. President Trump is portrayed as helpless while Vladimir Putin unleashes what analysts are calling the largest drone campaign of the Ukraine conflict, dramatically intensifying strikes and changing the battlefield calculus. Even as Trump boasted that it was looking good, Putin moved decisively to transform swaths of Ukraine into a burning war zone, ordering operations that have caused widespread destruction and civilian suffering. Putin has seized control of the Luhansk People's Republic and launched a fresh offensive toward Kharkiv, pressing forward with territorial ambitions despite mounting political and economic pressure. Mere hours after high-stakes talks between Trump and Xi, Ukraine accused Russia of preparing actions that could provoke or escalate tensions with NATO, raising alarm across capitals. Even as President Trump publicly insisted that his back-channel talks with President Xi were looking good, Russian forces simultaneously unleashed a devastating barrage of attacks that dramatically undermined hopes for an immediate diplomatic breakthrough. The Kremlin appeared largely unmoved by President Trump's diplomatic push, as Vladimir Putin ordered an escalation of military operations across multiple fronts in Ukraine, signaling Moscow's willingness to press its campaign despite outside appeals. Over the course of Wednesday and Thursday, Russian forces launched in excess of 1,400 drones, along with 56 cruise and ballistic missiles into Ukrainian airspace, representing an unprecedented intensity of aerial assault. That extraordinary barrage constituted the largest concentrated attack on Ukraine within any 48-hour window since the conflict began, overwhelming air defenses and causing widespread destruction. According to CNN, air raid sirens blared intermittently for roughly 11 hours through Wednesday and into the overnight hours, keeping civilians hunkered down and emergency services stretched to the limit. At least 16 people lost their lives when a strike flattened part of a 9-story residential building in Kyiv, a lethal blow that devastated families and left neighbors searching through rubble. Ukrainian authorities warned that survivors may still be trapped beneath the debris of the collapsed block, and rescue teams continued desperate searches amid unstable wreckage and falling masonry. President Volodymyr Zelensky had earlier proposed a ceasefire that could have begun as early as May 5, offering a potential opening for negotiations and relief for civilians caught in the crossfire. Moscow did not formally respond until May 7, at which point it framed its own ceasefire and peace proposal as a unilateral initiative, complicating prospects for coordinated talks and mutual confidence building. Once the fragile pause collapsed, Russia answered with a renewed air campaign that reportedly used more than 1,100 drones in just 3 days, intensifying strikes across urban and military targets. Amid the violence, President Trump warned that the deadly Russian strike on Kyiv risked shattering the already fragile peace efforts, suggesting the attack could derail months of diplomatic maneuvering. Speaking aboard Air Force One, Trump conceded that talks toward a Ukrainian peace remained stuck and unresolved, despite his recent discussions with President Xi and other diplomatic efforts. Immediately following the diplomatic furor, Russian authorities claimed full control of the Luhansk People's Republic as Putin's forces pressed westward along the Kharkiv front, seeking new territorial gains. I would like to congratulate you all on your awards. We have specialists from 2 categories here today: assault troops and UAV operators. Both groups are playing a leading role in the current military operations. I wish you continued success in combat and all the very best. Take care of yourselves. The Western Group of Forces is conducting active offensive operations across its sector of responsibility, which spans approximately 350 kilometers. Units of the 6th Army are advancing westwards from Kupiansk, generally towards Shevchenkovo. Kharkiv has been liberated, and fighting continues in Velikaya Shapkovka. Troops of the group are operating successfully in the Boguslav and Rubtsov directions. A formation of the 1st Tank Army has liberated the settlement of Borovaya. Street fighting continues in Shapkovka, where more than half of the settlement's territory is controlled by our assault units. Having completed the liberation of the Lugansk People's Republic, the 20th Army is advancing westwards across a broad front in the Kharkiv region. Fighting is underway to liberate the settlements of Novy Mir, Druzhelyabovka, and Chernishchina. Furthermore, the destruction and encirclement of enemy forces continues in Svetogorsk in the Donetsk People's Republic. Assault units of the 25th Army are continuing street fighting to liberate Krasny Lyman, a major administrative center and railway junction. We control 85% of the city's territory. Operations are underway to destroy Ukrainian armed forces formations within the Holy Mountains National Nature Park. Today, as part of our work, we will examine in greater detail the results of combat operations carried out by the formations and military units of the Western Group of Forces, and we will also clarify the plan for further action. Let us begin. Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials vowed swift retaliation after the Russian strike reduced a residential block in Kyiv to ruins, promising to target military assets responsible for the deadly assault. President Zelensky additionally warned that Russia might attempt to strike NATO territory through Belarusian soil following military movements near Ukraine's border with Belarus, raising fears of a dangerous escalation beyond Ukraine's borders. Dear Ukrainians, today we brought 209 of our people home, 205 military personnel who had been held in captivity, most of them since 2022, as well as 4 civilians captured by the Russians last year in the Sumy direction. This exchange is the first stage of the large-scale exchange we agreed on in the 1,000 for 1,000 format. We are working to ensure there are further stages as well. It is always one of the best and most hopeful pieces of news when our people return home from captivity. I want to thank the mediators, the United States. We spoke with them ahead of May 9th about the political guarantees needed to ensure these agreements are implemented. I also want to particularly recognize all our warriors who, through their courageous actions on the front line, ensure the replenishment of Ukraine's exchange fund. Every Ukrainian unit that delivers this result is helping bring our people home from captivity. Today there was also a detailed meeting with our intelligence agencies, the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, the Foreign Intelligence Service, the Security Service of Ukraine, and Ukraine's General Staff. Several important issues were discussed. Of course, we must respond to Russian strikes against our cities and villages in a just and tangible way. I approved certain response formats. Last night, the enemy already saw strikes hitting, in particular, their oil facilities and military sites. We are continuing these operations. Our intelligence services are also performing effectively. First, we clearly understand what is being discussed between Russia and the leadership of Belarus. The Russians have recently stepped up their activity, in talks with Alexander Lukashenko. They want to draw Belarus much deeper into the war and launch additional aggressive operations precisely from Belarusian territory, either against our Chernihiv-Kyiv direction in Ukraine or against one of the NATO countries bordering Belarus. Of course, we will continue defending Ukraine, defending our people, Ukrainians. I instructed Ukraine's defense and security forces to prepare a response plan, and we will review and approve it at the staff meeting. We will strengthen the Chernihiv-Kyiv direction. Our partners are also aware of what is happening and what Belarus is being pressured into. We also have Russian documents outlining targets for strikes in Kyiv, strikes on Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities' political and military facilities where army leadership and government officials may be located, including here on Bankova Street. They have been nursing this plan for a long time, and now, after Iran, have become active again trying to locate us and track our movements. The same applies to other members of the Ukrainian leadership, intelligence agencies, and our special services. Some in Moscow have still failed to understand that Ukrainians will never surrender their independence. One way or another, whether on Bankova or without Bankova, we will not surrender our land, our sovereignty, or our state. And one more thing. This morning, I was at the site in Kyiv where the Russians destroyed a residential building, an ordinary apartment block with their Kh-101 missile. They practically wiped out an entire section, 9 floors. Remnants of the missile were found in the basement. 24 people were killed, including 3 children. Ordinary people. They were simply at home, unfortunately. My deepest condolences to their families and loved ones. It is important that the world does not remain silent about such strikes, and it is important that support for Ukraine continues. This support is not about us taking what belongs to others, it is about helping Ukrainians defend what is ours, our freedom, our lives. We will certainly defend Ukraine. No matter what threats we face, Ukraine exists and it will endure. Russia must end this war of theirs. We need peace. Glory to Ukraine.